Heyo, what is up, guys? Welcome to Player's Take, episode 345. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, and I am on my own this week. Montrell had a, I would say emergency trip that he had to take for work that kind of came out of the blue, so doing a solo ep this week. So it'll be a little on the shorter side, but Montrell will be back next week for our normal run of show. So yeah, let me go through the rigmarole here, and we'll jump right into it. So, for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can send them to our email at theplayerstake01@gmail.com, and we will certainly answer those on the show. So, been a bit of a busy week. I actually have gotten some gaming done, so I will get into that here in a second. But did some board gaming this past weekend and got the juices flowing. We were playing some Gloomhaven First Edition. We were looking for a new campaign game to start and decided to jump back into that, but Gloomhaven Second Edition just came out, so I ended up decided to buy that. It is very hard to find right now. It's basically available on the developer's website, Cephalo Fair Games, and then I found it on eBay. One random seller in Canada was selling it as well. Actually cheaper than the Cephalo Fair's website. Which was like $200, but I found this eBay seller selling it for $150, so I picked that up. And this guy shipped it $15 shipping. He shipped it. I bought it Sunday night, and he shipped it Monday, and it didn't get into UPS's hands until Tuesday. And this was from Ontario, Canada, by the way. This was shipped from, and like I said, $15. Shipped on, like, UPS got it on Tuesday. It arrived at my house midday Wednesday. So I got like super expedited international shipping from Canada for $15 for this. And it's awesome. I loved it. I gave the guy great feedback. I don't know what wizardry, what deal with the devil he made in order to get shipping so low, but still somehow be that fast at the same time. So got that going too. I'm unboxing it, getting it all ready for us. We're gonna switch to second edition instead of first, because from what I've heard, it is significantly better than first edition. So very excited about that. So board gaming, video gaming going on. So it's been a fun week. So yeah, let me get into what I've been playing. So given that Montrell wasn't recording with me, my schedule's a little more flexible on these recording Thursdays. And I was very close to finishing Trails in the Sky first chapter, so I decided to buckle down and get it done, which I did. I just finished it probably, about 30 minutes ago or so. And, man, this is a great JRPG. It is, I'm trying to think of one, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is probably the last one I can think of, which, that's years ago now. I might be maybe short shrifting something. Atelier Ryza 3, but this is the best JRPG I've played in a while, for sure. This game is phenomenal. The story ends on, I'm not going to call it a cliffhanger, but certainly ends on a very intriguing note that I think Montrell did hint to me a little bit. But I am very excited for where this series goes from here. Obviously, there's like 13 games or whatever there is. So many people have played this series already and know what comes next. But for me, having just jumped into the series, I am extremely excited for where this goes now, in the second game and beyond. It was interesting, though, that you beat the game, and with all this talk of the game pre-release about like the director being like, yeah, we're not sure we're gonna remake the second one in the same way. It really depends on sales of this first game. It's like, dude, I don't think that's true at all. They literally put like a mini trailer at the end of this game for the second game in this same engine and art style, like with voice work done as well for some like small seeds, like really short seeds. So like clear, like I'm at the point where I like don't believe the developer what they were saying about the game, like doing the second game. Like I think they're already working on it, is my vibe, to be frank. Like, so I mean, I hope that's true, because that would be very exciting. It also means we're getting it much sooner if that's the case. But that would be very cool. So, but no, back to the game itself. The game is phenomenal. Like I just really enjoyed it. I think the combat's really good throughout. I do think like towards the end of the game, I don't know, it became like, I don't want to say samey or whatever, but I do think I might have needed a little bit more difficulty towards the end of the game. I will say the last boss did catch me once. It did one shot my party, and I had to do it again, but I did kill it on the second attempt, so it wasn't anything too bad. But I will say most of the bosses, or most of the fights in the game by the end of the game, were just kind of rinse and repeat. Like I was kind of dominating the fights, like wrecking enemies, and they were barely touching my party for the most part. There were a few fights where there was some moments where you get a little nervous, but they were few and far between for the most part. And I think so I do think I needed a little bit more challenge out of the combat towards the end of the game, but you know what? That's kind of what the New Game Plus playthrough might be for. There's like a option you can select where you can give all the enemies, because you end the game around level 50 or so, and if you start New Game Plus, all the enemies would actually obviously be level 1 again. So there's a option where you can increase their level by 50, and you're basically just continuing your leveling through that second playthrough, essentially. So I do think that's actually kind of a cool, very ingenious way of doing the New Game Plus. So but I will say, I don't know, I don't have that many criticisms for this game overall. I think the main thing I've mentioned a few times, and Montrell mentioned this too, is that the voice acting is like kind of intermittent almost. Like there, obviously the most important scenes are fully voice acted, but there's a lot of scenes that are like semi voice acted where Joshua and Estelle won't be voice acted. Like they'll just be text, and then somebody they're talking to who's like a new character or something will be fully voiced. And I continue to find that awkward throughout the whole game. I don't love it personally, and I don't know if this is something that they've always done in Trails, or if this was something that just for this game they were kind of limited or whatever. But I don't particularly love it. I don't think it's it's obviously a way for them to cut costs or whatever, which I understand. This isn't like a huge studio. But at the same time, I do think the game experience, suffers a little bit because of that, at least in some of the storytelling moments. So I'd love to see that cleaned up. But I think the other thing, though, I don't know if I'd say fully critical. Well, this is a thing I'm a little annoyed about. So when you're playing this game, there's 5 regions that you go through, and each chapter is basically associated with one of the regions, essentially. And when you leave one region and go to the next one, you are not allowed to go back to the previous region. So you cannot, like, if you miss anything in that region, you've just missed it for the whole playthrough, like, basically. And I didn't really know that going into the game, so there was a bunch of things I missed in the first prologue chapter, basically, and even the first, chapter in Bose. I missed a few things, not understanding that, and wasn't able to go back and rectify it. So it basically screws the whole playthrough in terms of from a completionist standpoint, which ultimately was fine. I wasn't planning to go for the platinum on this game right away, like on that first playthrough, so I'm not, it doesn't matter necessarily. But so I need to do a second playthrough no matter what. That'll be the more completionist mindset playthrough. But when I got to the end of the game, though, there were literally 2 enemies that I hadn't collected for the enemy notebook, and there was 1 single chest I hadn't found somewhere in the game that I didn't get, and it's like those are both trophies, and that was kind of irritating. It's like I was so close, but there's nothing you can do about it. if you missed them earlier in the playthrough, you missed them, and you can't go back. So I think that, it's like you can't go like grind at lower level enemies. Certain materials that you need for cooking are hard to come by as well later in the game, because the enemies that drop them were from earlier regions and you can't fight them anymore. The last dungeon does seem to drop every type of enemy material, but I mean, like, you have to run around and like destroy boxes basically in the dungeon over and over again to get that stuff, and it would be an insane grind to try and do that. So I'm not in love with that necessarily either, I will say. So it's probably my main criticism of the game. This game is very much designed, and I think the intent here for the player, from the developer standpoint, the way they want you to play the game is you play the game like as side quests come up and side content comes up, you do it right away. If you don't, you're gonna miss your window a lot of the time, and the window never comes back. Like you just miss it. So there is an absolute metric shit ton of stuff in this game that you can miss from a JRPG standpoint, and that is one of the. It's almost like a pet peeve, I think, for me, and I think a lot of JRPG players, is like missable content in JRPGs sucks a lot of the time. And I think the thing I will give them in this game is they fully embrace the mindset, though, that they're just embracing the fact that there's missable content. The whole game is designed around that idea that time moves forward, and if you miss your window, you miss your window. I think that's just the nature of the game and part of the game, and so I don't necessarily want to fault them too much for it. I actually like this better than other JRPGs where 99% of the game is non-missable, but there's like one or two things that happen in the game where you have missable content, windows. That's actually a lot worse, because you are conditioning your player to the idea that they can go back and do shit whenever they want. And then all of a sudden there's a couple things that they can't for one reason or another. So, I think that's a lot worse than what Trails is doing here. So yeah, overall, I think the game is great. I really loved it a lot. This is probably one of my favorite games I've played this year, at this point. And I mean, I'm ready for Trails in the Sky Chapter 2, whatever they're going to call it. I think it's SC, I believe. Second chapter, yeah, I think it's SC. So I'm very much looking forward to that whenever it comes out. I don't know. I need to talk to Montrell, though, because he was talking about, I think he mentioned last week, like maybe going on to the next game. So I am very, we're going to do a spoiler cast on this game 100%. Next week when he's back, so we'll talk more in depth about the story and stuff, and it'll be full spoilers. So I'll get his thoughts about like what his plan is with this series, because with my suspicion here that they're already working on the second one, and how fast these guys tend to put out games. This particular studio tends to put out games. I don't actually think we're going to be waiting that long for Chapter 2. Like, I kind of think like we could end up seeing it maybe next year. Potentially, which seems crazy, but I really do kind of get the vibe that they were already making it based on that little trailer I mentioned. So, well, I don't know. I'll see what he thinks, and maybe I'm off base there, but either way, very excited to continue this series. So yeah, great game. Highly recommend it if you like JRPGs. Obviously, this is a great starting point to get you into the Trail series, and I think it's very much worth it. These characters are awesome. I think the overall world that this game takes place in is awesome, and there's just a lot to like in general. So yeah. Okay, so other than that, I really haven't been playing a whole lot of other stuff. Really. I did not play any more of the Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era demo. And I haven't tried anything. I haven't really played anything else because I've really been just trying to get Trails done for the show this week. And, well, not really for the show, but I've just been trying to get Trails done because I am ready to move on to something else, which I think is going to be Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm not 100% sure there, but I think I'm going to dive back into that and really fully embrace that game, because actually they just announced their third and final DLC is coming out in November 11th, I think, something like that. So that game is ripe for full completion, and I'm ready to go for that one. So yeah, a lot of great games this year, So all right, I'm gonna move into news. I'm gonna take a drink of water first, but then we're gonna go into news. Okay, so news this week. I did leave one thing off. I wanted to talk about it with Montrell, so I'm leaving that off for next week. It's not really like news per se. It was more of a something I've noticed. So we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, news. So first thing is Xbox. I mean, we've been talking about Xbox so much the last like month or so. I'm actually getting fucking tired of it. To be quite honest with you, I'm sick of talking about Xbox. Like at this point in my head, they're kind of I don't want to say an irrelevant brand, but we should really stop talking about them the way we've been talking about them. And I think this story is kind of, kind of typifies that they're going in a different direction, and they're going to be in their own little bubble, I think, going forward. And I don't think they're really competition for Sony at this point. So there's a report that from Video Games Chronicle, and they were reporting on a interview with Mashable, but this is also reporting they're doing as well, that the next Xbox is going to be a premium system. So Sarabon was interviewed by Mashable and said that, quote, well, I can't tell you you're right. So they asked, if the next Xbox system will have a high price point and will have some things in common with the recently released ROG Xbox Ally devices. And she said, quote, well, I can't tell you you're right that the next Xbox console is going to be well, I can tell you you're right that the next gen console is going to be a very premium, very high-end curated experience. You're starting to see some of the thinking that we have in this handheld, but I don't want to give it all away. So, ending quote. So basically, yeah, she's saying that the next device is going to be a very costly premium device that's going to be some kind of, it seems like some kind of PC console hybrid of some sort that is going to play PC games and potentially have PC storefronts like Steam and the Epic Games Store on them, which is, to what I was saying before, like I think they're going in their own direction. I think the days of Xbox having a console in the same vein, the same vertical that Sony does with the PlayStation 5, like they're over. They're doing something different. I think they still want to make hardware, but what that is going to end up being very niche, I think. Because the part about this that I find strange is, like, if it's going to run other storefronts, then it's going to be very Windows-like, presumably, in the sense of, like Steam's going to get their cut. They're going to get their 30% cut on games that are sold, and then the developer's going to get the other 70%. Like, I don't see Xbox getting a cut if that's the approach they're going to take. I mean, they could make some kind of contract deal with these platforms to put their shit on the device, but like, why would Steam? Like, if I was Valve, right? You have all the fucking leverage here against Microsoft. There's no real value in signing some deal where Xbox gets 10% of your 30, where like you get 20% and they get 10%. Like, why would you do that for something that, like, if this thing is truly what it sounds like this is going to become a boutique niche item that, like, I think is going to struggle to sell like 10 million units, like, because let's say this thing's 1,000. Let's just put that as the number, right? Which is, I mean, I think that's a very realistic number based on the way everybody's, like, all the reporting is talking about this and the way Sarah Bond is talking. $1,000 for this thing. At that point, when you're in that price range and you're somebody that wants to play PC games, Xbox games are already on PC. So, like, this device doesn't have an appeal specifically. Like, I just say build a PC at that price range, just go build yourself a PC tower, like a mid-range PC tower. And I think the argument that Xbox is going to have to make probably is that this device is much more convenient than a PC. It's going to have a curated OS. It's not going to be Windows with a mouse and keyboard, right? It'll still be controller controlled and have that kind of console feel, I would assume. That would be my guess is what they're going for. Otherwise, they're just making a PC if that's not the case. So you're not going to have to deal with drivers and updating your fucking video drivers and shit like that, and stuff like that. And it'll still be a TV device. I kind of assume that's what they're going to go for, but I don't know. It's if they don't do that, then yeah, they're just making a PC at the end of the day, which those already exist, and people have plenty of ways to do that. And there are plenty of companies that make curated pre-built PCs already, for affordable prices. So I don't really know where would this slot in? This would just be one of many of those. So if they're trying to build themselves some kind of new market here, there needs to be some focus, I think, on the fact that it's the ease of use is still there, despite the fact that it's not strictly a console. Otherwise, I don't really think there's going to be high adoption here. But then you run into the problems of with the other storefronts on there. Like I said, Valve has all. I mean, Epic is probably more desperate and would be willing to cut some deal, but Valve's not. What are they going to care, dude? A device that has 10 million users, after a few years is okay, whatever, bro. It's not and then at that point too, even if they accept, I don't they're going to make money hand over fist, and they're just going to eat away at the sales that Xbox would want on the device that get them, even if, let's say Valve even accepted some kind of deal where they gave Xbox a cut of sales that they did through Steam on this device, that's still bad for Xbox because Xbox would rather you buy the games on their storefront and they get the 30% cut, So I don't really understand the strategy here. I really don't. I'm very puzzled by it, and it feels like they're just putting themselves in a niche, and I think they just want to keep some kind of hardware to not piss off the hardcore base anymore. But I don't think this is a focus of theirs. I think this is waving the white flag, and I think this is a severe admission that it's over, guys. The Xbox as a console is over. And they want to have a device for those people who have an Xbox Series X and S now that want to move forward, but that's the awkward part is those people now, there's more Xbox Series S's than X's, and those were cheap. The reason that is because it's cheaper, and it's still a way to play next-gen console games. I mean, guys, current-gen console games at this point. So you're going to go from that to then bringing out this $1,000 machine that you expect those people who went for the cheap option to suddenly buy. I don't think the strategy works, really. When you really talk it out, I don't feel like the strategy is going to be there. And I think it's going to be very awkward for their fan base. Because there's going to be a choice in front of these people. Because Sony's gearing up. We've been talking about PS6. Sony's been gearing up, to have a much cheaper device, a much more in line with what we've come to expect with consoles, in the 500-600 range. It sounds like it will still be more powerful than PS5, but that will become a choice then for these Xbox gamers to be do I want to continue with my Xbox library but have to pay $1,000 for it, or maybe more potentially, or do I want to switch over to PlayStation and just start building a library there? That's going to be a real choice too that they have to contend with as well. So I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about this. There was the rumors last week of, they're not moving forward with making, hardware anymore, or they're thinking about it. They're talking about it. They're reevaluating their approach to hardware to the point where they might not do it at all. I still think that's on the table when they really think this through. Is this really a viable path forward for Xbox? I don't really think so. But it doesn't sound like they're I still think they're going to release some kind of device, but it's leaning on that power element. I don't think it's going to be enough if they're going to cost twice as much as Sony's device. So yeah, we'll see what comes of this. certainly it's obviously very important to Sony and even Nintendo what Microsoft does here. So we will continue to monitor that. Okay, next story is actually I think a follow-up to the last time I did a solo episode a month or two ago. I don't remember how long ago that was, but I believe I talked about this in that episode when I was by myself. Was Turtle WoW, which is the WoW private server that I had been playing earlier this year and got very much into. That is kind of a classic plus server. They develop their own content and stuff, and have their own cash shop to kind of fund themselves and everything. They got sued by Blizzard, and it was a RICO lawsuit, basically declaring them a criminal organization and whatnot to the U.S. government. But they responded to the lawsuit recently, and I'm not going to read this whole thing. It is a very long post, but Torta, the leader of this development team, posted this on their forum, on the Turtle WoW forum, basically responding to Blizzard, and it was a very, very interesting post. So basically they said that they kind of admitted without admitting what they're doing is not legal, right? They took the approach of trying to get on Blizzard's nice side, and say that they would like Blizzard to offer some way for teams like theirs to license World of Warcraft, and let Blizzard make money off of their server and let their server continue to operate as a licensed official World of Warcraft server. Right now, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think Blizzard's going to listen. I doubt it. I think Turtle would have to give up a lot in order for Blizzard to agree to do something like this. But in their plea, they did mention a few other things that I do want to bring up here, which I'll just quote them here. Other successful studios have shown how rewarding a well-structured community server ecosystem can be. Daybreak Games, they mention, provides legal permission to Project 1999, which is a private server that completely faithfully recreates the classic EverQuest experience. Then they mention Rockstar GTA 5, partnered with 5M to enable community-run multiplayer servers. NCSoft granted the license to Homecoming for City of Heroes, which they revived. That game has been defunct since 2012. And I believe in 2019 they released this server that is out there as a private server. They mentioned Bethesda long supported Skyrim mods and other mods for their other games. Valve opened the Source engine to the public, which birthed titles such as Counter-Strike and Team Fortress 2. Epic Games introduced a creative mode in Fortnite. They mentioned as well Microsoft Mojang allows third-party servers such as Hypixel, Mineplex, and others to host multiplayer experiences built on the Minecraft engine. And then EA, Star Wars Battlefront 2, cooperated with the community project Kyber to fix server-side exploits. So, server-side exploits, and its lead engineer later joined EA itself. These examples, while somewhat related, I think others have said this as well, that these aren't one-to-one with Turtle WoW. Project 1999, I believe, requires you to own EverQuest through Daybreak in order to play. Same with GTA 5 and Rockstar. Same with Bethesda's games with modding. You need to own the game. Same with Battlefront 2. Same with Minecraft. Minecraft has always allowed people to host their own servers, so you need to own the game. Same with Fortnite as well, which, I guess Fortnite's free to play, so maybe that one's a little bit different. But they make money off people creating stuff in their games. So the only one that really seems close is NCSoft with the City of Heroes private server. They're allowing it to run, but the deal there is that the developers of that private server are not allowed to make any profit at all off of the private server. So they can't pay themselves. They can't be paid. Donations can't be in money form, and stuff like that. So they're not allowed. They're basically not allowed to take anything from it. So all of these examples that they brought up are not really good examples, which is interesting because in Turtle's case, you don't need the WoW client in order to play Turtle. They have their own client. They have their own version of the client that you download. You don't need a Blizzard account. It is not connected to Battle.net in any way. And Blizzard gets nothing out of it. So if they were to accept this kind of deal with Turtle, they would probably have to change that, I would assume, because there's just it just doesn't really make any sense otherwise, really, for Blizzard. Like, why would they even bother with this? It would be my question, if they can't make any money off of it. And second, Blizzard's very clearly and has been rumored to be making their own Classic Plus very soon, within the next 6 to 12 months, I think is probably when we're going to see it. And there's a very good chance they're going to use some of the ideas that Turtle's created here. And they're trying to get Turtle out of the way in order to kind of implement some of these things on their own, in their own way, because Turtle is very faithful to WoW Classic, and the storytelling and the environment design and the class design of Classic, in their implementation of Classic Plus. But, I don't think Blizzard's going to want to limit themselves just because Turtle WoW did something, So I don't necessarily think they're going to copy paste what they did into World of Warcraft, but, they'll probably might be implementing things that are similar, ideas and zones and things like that. And even class changes that Turtle has done as well. So I think I don't know. I don't really see this working for them. It would be very hard to see that at this point. So, I mean, it's something I'm going to continue to monitor. This is very important to me, clearly, because I play on this private server. So I'm not saying I don't know. I don't really want to lose my character on there. I really like the server. I like the changes they made. I have a lot of progress on there with the hunter I was playing earlier this year. But at the same time, I always knew this was a possibility, right? It's a private server. Blizzard shut them down before. There was always a chance this was going to happen. This server has gotten very popular over the last couple of years. And as they continue to make new content, and especially with their decision to port their client over to Unreal Engine, and kind of make a new look and new version of the game, I think that's become very threatening to Blizzard with World of Warcraft. And also just their kind of brazenness. They're very brazen, like kind of, adding Blizzard on Twitter and stuff like that when they're doing stuff in their client and releasing new patches and things like that. It's just was not a very smart approach. I think they got a little too big for their britches, and Blizzard is going to try to shut them down. Now, I will say we're still in the same situation despite this, this letter. They're not hosted in the United States, so they still have that protection of being in. I believe their servers are hosted in Russia. I think they still have, like, that protection is still there, more than likely. So I don't know if they're really going to necessarily get shut down. The servers may move. They may go down for a while where they get relocated and eventually turned back on, something along those lines. But, regardless of the fact, I don't think Turtle has a lot of leverage here. They really have no leverage, basically, in this situation. So yeah, we got that going on. All right, moving on. I'm going to take another drink here. It's the last story I'm going to talk about. EA and the NFL have extended Madden's exclusivity deal through 2030. However, the NFLPA has not yet signed an extended deal for player likenesses and names with the game yet. They still have 2 years till 2027 to do that with the NFLPA. The NFLPA is not happy with their cut of the pie here, which is why it hasn't happened yet. Supposedly, the two sides are not close to making a deal right now, but they have 2 years to figure this out. So I'm sure EA will sweeten the pot, as it were, and make it worth their while. So, yeah, man, Man, I sent this to Montrell earlier and DJ, and I don't know. Every time this happens, like, you know, every time this deal's coming up, I start paying attention a little bit more, and I'm hoping, you know, every time I'm hoping that the NFL will come in and actually fucking examine what EA's been really doing here, and they don't. They just, you know, they get more money. EA gets to make a shitload of money. Everybody's happy. The players get a shit product. But for whatever reason, they're still happy as well. Happy to waste their money on what fucking bullshit. And I don't know, man. It's just depressing that this keeps happening. I mean, by the time we hit 2030, I mean, dude, we're talking about 25 years, literally a quarter of a goddamn century that EA has had the exclusive rights to NFL, to make NFL games. And it's just, you know, Angry Joe does his review every year, and nothing changes, bro. This series sucks worse than it ever has right now. And it's like, you know, I know some people have come at me and Montrell before because we haven't played the game in a long time, and I think the last time I played Madden was like 2018, I think was the last time I gave it a shot. And I didn't last very long, if I'm honest. I played for like a month, I think, and dropped the game. And every year I'm a little curious, and I'm like, you know, man, it's been a minute. It'd be cool to like go in there and figure out sliders and make that like hyper realistic franchise mode that, you know, I really enjoy, with like the 15-minute quarters and shit. And it's like, it'd be really fun to do that. And I just never want to do it. You know, I don't want to give EA the money. I don't know. Maybe next year, I'll give it a shot again, you know, because it would be cool if I figured it out. You know, if I made the sliders right, you know, I could get Montrell involved. I have a buddy who's like an NFL kind of fanatic, and I'm sure he would play with us as well. Like, it would be really cool to do a connected franchise mode with 3 or 4 people, and like we're all in the same division, and like we play against each other and shit. With it. Like, that shit is really fun when you tune it correctly. You know, Madden can still be fun in that regard, but I don't know, man. I was thinking about this today when I saw this news, and it's just really depressing. It's like it's just so depressing. Like, I cannot understand why so many companies and people who work for these companies are just content with making something that's subpar, you know? And Madden is that. It is exactly that. It is subpar. And I know it sells millions and millions and millions of copies every year. And you can point to that and say, oh, well, millions of people don't agree with you, Justin, you know? And you know what? You're right. They don't. But that's the part that's depressing. It depresses me even more because I know we can get so much more out of an actual simulation NFL video game. I know we can, and we don't. You know, they're not committed to excellence. They are committed to doing the absolute minimum they have to in order to keep people buying this game every year. And it works every single year. People buy Madden and then they play Madden Ultimate Team, and they spend an absolute fuckwad of money on these stupid fucking packs to get their fucking team really good so they can go online and play competitive. And I just don't get it. I really do not get it. I really don't get it. Like, I can't fathom how you can spend money on... Like, you can play a mode in Madden where you spend fucking real money on these random loot box packs that you get random cards out of, and then you play your team against other people who also get random packs. And it's like just luck of the draw, dude. Like, whoever wins is more than likely going to be because who has the better players, like, that they got out of their packs. And generally speaking, since it's luck-based, people who spend more money are more likely to have better players. So it's just a pay-to-win competitive mode. And I don't get why people are so invested in this every year that they fucking do this, man. And like, then the next year's Madden comes out, and it's all wiped away. You have to do it again from scratch. Nothing's transferred. I don't understand. I don't understand, dude. I really don't. I really don't. Like, why do players accept this? Because, like, that's the reason we keep getting the shit, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I can be mad at the companies all I want, but like the audience isn't sending them a signal where they need to change anything, you know? So at the end of the day, as much as like I would hope there's some integrity at the studio and like they want to be committed to excellence, they don't have to be because the players aren't demanding that. So you're not, I don't know. It's just super frustrating. It's super frustrating. It really is just super frustrating because, like, again, like I said, we could get an incredible simulation video game. For the NFL, I really believe that. And Madden is just not it. It hasn't been it in a very, very, very long time. Most of my life, actually. You know, like I'm 35, dude. And you know, we're coming on 20 years that Madden's had the exclusivity deal, and that's over half my life at this point. You know, and it's never going to be less than that. Going forward, and that's fucking sad. It's just really sad, and I just wish people would expect more, you know. But sometimes having total control of the market is all you need, dude. Like, you don't need a quality product; you just need to be the only product out there, and that's the reality with Madden. Like, they're popular because they're the only game that exists, you know. And it's kind of the same thing with NBA 2K, you know, and MLB The Show. They're all kind of in a similar boat. Now, those are varying quality levels. I've heard MLB The Show is actually really good for a baseball game. But 2K, I mean, we've talked about 2K. That game's like in an absolute shithole, you know, as well. So, I don't know, man. I don't really know what the solution is. I don't think there is a solution. You know, there isn't. Somebody, you know, leadership of the NFL or EA needs to change, and they need to come in and not be satisfied with what the product is. Like, one of those two things needs to happen, you know. And I think until something like that happens, like, it's just not going to change. It's just going to be the same every year, you know, and people keep buying it, and it's our fault. It's our fault that Madden's like this. It really is our fault, you know. And you know, I'll throw my name in there too. It's like, I bought Madden a few times. I don't really take blame, frankly, like, you know, too deeply, because I haven't really bought Madden that many times in my life. But you know, I'm not buying MUT packs, you know, and shit like that. But I dabbled in MUT back in, like, I think it was Madden 25, the anniversary game, the 25th anniversary game, and I think that was 2012. That was one of the first games that had MUT. And I kind of got into it for a brief period because I didn't really know what it was, and I was into that gambling shit back then. But eventually, like, I kind of realized, it's like, dude, I just need to keep swiping the credit card to make any progress in this mode. Like, there's no way around that, you know, back then. I don't know if it's changed now. Maybe it's a little better, but you know, it's yeah, it is what it is. I mean, 2030, we'll be having the same conversation again then, I'm sure. You know, and I don't know. I don't want to commit to anything right now, but I do want to play Madden coming up one of these next few years, you know, and really jump back into it and see, you know, as much as I trust Angry Joe's kind of evaluation of the game, I do want to go in there and see it for myself. Like, how bad is it really? You know, is it really, really that bad? Because he focuses on certain things that I don't really care about, you know, like the create your own player mode and stuff like that. Like, I don't really care about that stuff. Franchise mode is where it's at for me. And that's kind of my main thing that I wanted to play. So yeah, yep. EA and Madden. In the NFL, 5 more years of exclusivity. All right, guys. Well, that's all I have for news, and I've been going for about 45 minutes, so I think we're at the end of the road here this week. So I do hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about gaming news this week and Trails in the Sky and you know, other stuff. If you did, please like the show, review the show, subscribe to the show whenever feed you're listening to it on. And please subscribe to us on YouTube. We do occasionally stream, post some videos on there. We do have the show on there every week as well. If that's your preferred platform to listen to the podcast, you do have it on there as well. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so by sending an email to playerstake01@gmail.com. And that is going to be it for me this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week. Bye.